And then I am going to share my screen so that I can pull up the meeting minutes from last time, which is not that. Are you looking at the meeting minutes here? From January 4th? All right. So the first item on our agenda is to accept the prior meeting minutes. I think we mostly talked about what we were going to talk about at the tools of the trade. Did anyone have any corrections to those?
No.
Okay, great. So those are all set. And then now you should be looking at the agenda. I did just want to do a little debrief on the tools of the trade. And actually wanted to show you on our YouTube page. I did put the recordings from those on, and I put it in a playlist so that it would be all in one place. So if you go to playlists and then tools of the trade, there's 4 presentations there, and those are the 4 speakers that we heard from at the tools of the trade. So that is that. And then just otherwise, I just wanted feedback, you know, if there's any positive or negative. So as we're looking forward, we've been doing this every other year. Usually it's in person. And it was actually delayed 1 year. It was supposed to be in 2020. But anyways, if you have, you know, if you really liked one or you thought that one of them was not really useful, that would be good to know so that we have that, you know, fresh in our notes for when we're putting together the next one. So the first presentation was from Dr. Kevin Costello, who is affiliated with Albany Med, and he talked about the impact of isolation and loneliness on people in general, really, but focusing on older adults.
Yes, I'm in a Zoom meeting.
I found it interesting, but it wasn't
I'm not going to be able to make the meeting because my husband just got out of the hospital. He had 4 stents put in his heart.
Sorry, Deb, I just muted you. For me, it was pretty interesting. It's a field that I don't obviously work in very much. So I didn't know if it was just redundant for you or if it was helpful for you as well. Any thoughts on that?
I was unable to attend, so I have no comments on it.
This is Angelina. I found it very useful. It's helpful.
Okay. And then the next one was on volunteer recruitment and retention. When we did the last coordinated plan, which was in 2019, we got a lot of feedback that it's difficult to recruit and retain volunteers, and that it would be helpful to talk about that in a more of a focused way. So we had staff from the Colony Senior Services and Saratoga County RSVPs and community caregivers and CareLinks, just talking about their practices and problems. Any thoughts on that one? Ways we maybe could have done it better besides it being in person?
Again, I didn't attend, and I really got no feedback from the one person I know that was part of that. But being part of Captain Community Human Services and CareLinks, recruiting volunteers continues to be a significant problem. CareLinks is turning away as many as 20 rides a month because we're unable to fill them. So obviously I don't know the answer. And I'm just thinking that perhaps someone outside of our immediate system who's more of a connected to volunteers, might be a candidate for the next event that we plan. But to me, it's a big issue.
Anything else on the volunteer recruitment and retention? Okay, and the next one was Dwight Mengel from Tompkins County talking about the Ithaca-focused mobility as a service program that they had put together before COVID hit, and talking about the kind of technological system that they had put together and what services they were actually providing, which it sounded like they had kind of pivoted to providing rides to vaccines related to COVID. I think for this one within our office, we felt like it may have been less relevant for you all because Ithaca is a pretty unique case in New York State and, you know, a little bit more rural than what we are. If we were doing it over, would you think, for those of you who were there, that we should have, that it was good to have a Dwight come, or did that seem less useful?
A little of both.
All right. And then finally, John Scherzer and also Lindsay Garney from CDTA came to talk about the Flex program, which is if we're familiar with the shuttle fly, kind of like that, but with an online reservation system that they're operating in the airport, Wolf Road area. And then they talked a good amount about an expansion that they're planning to do between Mechanicville and Half Moon.
Carrie, again, I wasn't present for the presentation, but I did participate in a similar presentation that Jonathan did to the Southern Saratoga Chamber of Commerce. And when I looked at the Flex program and hoping that it could complement the CareLinks program because we cover the same territory, they were very outgoing and provided a lot of information, but at the same time, because of the limits in the territory that they cover, it didn't appear that's going to be that much of a value to our CareLink clientele. You know, part of it is the fact that they only provide curb to curb service. You know, they don't really assist people into buildings and things like that, which in many of our individual people do need assistance. So in an emergency situation where a volunteer may not be able to fulfill a commitment, a last minute contact to Flex might be of benefit if the person lives in the Flex area and the destination is in the Flex area. So, I mean, I'm hoping this is just the beginning, and as they perfect the system, they may open up the coverage, the territory much wider. But I could see it as a great benefit to people, particularly who are employed and know on a regular basis where they're going and at what time and so on.
Thanks, Bob. All right, anything in general remaining that you wanted to mention on the tools of the trade? Should we shoot for April of 2023 for thinking about the next one and hoping that it would be in person? Okay, I have that kind of penciled in to my long-term calendar for planning.
22 or 23?
23. We had been doing it every other year. It was actually supposed to be in 2020, but I think we figured since it was in April of 2021 that the next one would be in 2023.
Okay.
Unless
I was thinking maybe if you have it in person in 22, it might be nice to have an in-person thing and get back to normal. That's just my opinion.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
anybody else? I see head nods from Peggy and Todd.
Yeah.
Because I can see them.
I think it's a good idea.
I agree. I think it's a good idea.
All right. Okay. So tools of the trade, but only if we can do in person, I think I'm hearing, depending on what happens with
I say yes.
whatever
Yeah.
Delta or whatever new variant comes out. Okay. All right. The next thing that I wanted to talk about is something that has been on our group to-do list for years. And it was listing the different services on kind of statewide amalgamations of information. So it was on the New York Connects website, and then the New York State DOT website, which is the 511 system, and then also on 211, which is the United Way one. So I had put links in the agenda because I found them. Are you looking at a New York Connects website now?
Mhm.
Yes.
So I had sent either what Donna from Sunnyview had sent me way back when, or the newer senior transportation guide that the Guardian Society is working on. I had sent that to these three groups. They seem to have used it, so that's positive. I'm scrolling down. This I had searched over on the left here. I had searched Albany County, so it should only be showing Albany County, and then I had selected transportation. So when you go to know what you need, you click, I typed here transportation and then Albany County. And this is what comes up. So Town of New Scotland, the title looks good. So basically my question is it worth me trying to contact these entities and ask them to fix what they listed, or is it just good that they listed something?
Harry,
So-
let me tell you how it works because I do it. So no one else will have this information unless you work for unless you do a New York Connects and you're
Right.
and house it. No, it's not helpful for you to contact them. This comes from New York Connect. So we are the New York Connects for Saratoga County. We make the updates we have to make the updates to the resource guide through our office. But the funny thing is Albany County can do the same thing to ours. So it's not the actual entity that's doing it. Like the Town of New Scotland is not doing this. It would be Albany County's New York Connect. It is a very hard system to use. It is not user friendly. You can make updates, you can do whatever you want, and they don't come out right most of the time. It's a work in progress, and we've been trying to do this for 10 years now.
Yeah.
Not to burst your bubble. It's not going to help. It's a waste of your time and resources to contact individuals for the that the changes is actually up to the entity that holds the New York Connects in that county. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So it wouldn't be, so if I were looking, I mean, I assume the Saratoga County listings have some odd things in them.
Oh, I'm sure we have a lot of odd things because we started looking at it during COVID while some of my staff was home to actually fix it, and it didn't go very well.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So I'm sorry. I was like, it's a great thing, but I mean, really what the New York Connects resource director really should say, call your local New York Connects phone number 714-4826, because when they call here, we then can tell them what transportation is available in the area. But I mean, it is on here, so I can't say half of it's wrong or half of it's right. I don't know, but it's kind of interesting.
Yeah. I mean, somebody put it, I can tell from the formatting here that a lot of this did come from the Albany Guardian Society thing.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's obvious that the system, the back end is a little bit difficult to work with.
I mean, we love Albany Guardian Society for their housing directory. Oh my God, that's like a lifesaver for us.
All right.
But the transportation, the rest of it's kind of interesting. That's all I can say on that.
Yeah. So I'll just leave it at this. So you can see like the title here is transportation for a number of these. If anybody has like a bigger issue and you want me to try to ask somebody to fix it for you, I'm happy to do that. But the reason I wanted to ask was my feeling was what Judy is saying is that it took me years to get this much into the system. So it does seem like a not great use of time, but I am happy to do it. If you're listed on here and you really don't like what you're seeing and you don't want to go through that effort on your own. Okay. Anything else on the New York Connects? And then this is the 511 system, which is the New York State Department of Transportation one. And this one, so it lists everything. This is the link that I put on the agenda. It's in the 511 NY rideshare system. And for the most part, they just are looking at Peggy here, so I'm clicking Bethlehem. So their link just links to the town's website, specifically the Bethlehem Senior Transportation page of it. So I think this one is pretty good. I did notice for one of them, I think it was Stillwater goes to Stillwater, Michigan, but so I didn't check all of the links, but for the most part, I checked a few of them and they were going to the right place. So that's that. And then 211 has a transportation page. So it's 211 transportation. And then I think these other ones, these two, I think mostly just list like CDTA and then Greater Glens Falls transit. But if you go to this one, senior ride programs, it has more of the smaller providers. And this is kind of what it shows. So again, it's may not be perfect, but there is stuff on there. Let's open a new page. And I think it's just, it knew that I was in Albany somehow, so I didn't click. I don't think I said where I was, but it is pulling up entities in the capital region. You know, again, it's got some weird like symbols in here. But for the most part, there's listings, and it gets people at least the name and your website or your phone number to contact you. So overall, are we good with the progress on getting these listings on these kind of state or United Way systems?
Yes,
Yeah.
the more we have out there, the better.
Okay, great.
Great
It may
job,
not be
Carrie, having
perfect, but
worked
they're-
on this for so many years. And I know all the struggles it is to try to keep it updated. I think you did a wonderful job.
Super. Thank you, because most of what we started with and what we gave the Sienna students who worked with the Guardian Society was from you. The original file we had. All right. The next thing on the agenda was just a group question from me to you. We had a presentation from the Alliance for Better Health like a few years ago about a transportation program that they were doing that was geared towards social determinants of health type of transportation trips. And it had sounded really promising when they presented to us, and I've been trying to contact them to get an update on how it went or what they're doing with it now. And I just have not been hearing anything back from them. So I was wondering if any of you had been working with them, interfacing with them through your transportation program, or referring people to them, or just know about what's going on with the Alliance for Better Health.
No.
Darn. Okay. Next thing I threw on the agenda was travel training. I know we talk about this a lot, but I was listening to a webinar from something in the United States somewhere where they were talking about their travel training program that trained people on how to use the bus system, but they were also training people on how to use Uber and Lyft and other, and other, more local services, like maybe services that you all run. And so I just wanted to ask if that sounds, if you have people that you work with that would need that or aren't using services because they just don't know how to use them or are unfamiliar with them. CDTA has a travel training program. They focus on their buses, but we have funded their staff for that program using the 5310 funds in the past. So we could maybe influence what kind of training they're considering providing, or fund travel training a little bit differently, again, if an agency wanted to do it. I just thought that was an interesting thing, and I was curious if you all saw a need for it, or if you don't. I'm kind of feeling like the don't side. You haven't really been hearing from people that they have unmet need, and you're thinking that an Uber or a Lyft or other existing service would work for them. They just.
So, I can talk, I guess. Very sorry, since everybody's kind of blah today.
Thanks.
It's the people who could afford the services of a Uber or a Lyft have the resources to have someone help them be able to do it. The people that cannot afford the Uber or the Lyft or pay for their transportation don't need that help. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's Margot actually just sent me a chat that said the same thing.
CDTA with the navigator system where they help the people do the bus, go through the whole process of the bus and all that. That was, I think it was navigator or whatever. That's a great program. But again, the people that we service can't get on the bus, or there's no bus. So obviously, the only bus line there is through Saratoga right now, or to Boston Spa. So that doesn't even help the people that we service in Saratoga County Office of Aging. But it's 100% correct. The people who can use Uber or Lyft, can afford it, can get help.
Okay, that's good to know. Thanks. Anybody else? Okay. Next thing I had on the agenda was municipal transition plans. These are the Americans with Disabilities Act plans to bring sidewalks specifically into compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act. And CDTC has been funding for a couple of years now these plans, which lay out what is not compliant and then a schedule for making, you know, improvements to the sidewalk network. We have finished one with Glenville. It is on their website under news and then transition plan. And they posted it on, I think, June 16th. And so they're doing a 30-day comment period. So if you are interested in it, the comments I think are due this Friday. The link to it is there. It's a PDF. They don't have that many sidewalks actually in the town of Glenville, so it's not a huge inventory to look through. But that is there if you're interested. And then another one that we're working on is in Saratoga Springs. And just for an update on that, we thought we finished data collection. And then when we looked, you know, did kind of QA, QC on the data that we got, we realized that there were some data points that were missing. So city staff person is going back out and kind of filling in the blanks that we weren't able to figure out by process of elimination on using the computer. And we did a solicitation this summer or this spring for another one, and wasn't quite on the agenda yet when I sent that out, but we will be funding the city of Albany for a transition plan. So that one hasn't started yet, but if you are interested in it or in the Saratoga one, feel free to let me know and I can pass that along. For this program, the municipality, so in this case the two cities, are responsible for coordinating the public outreach and public input on them, which mostly has to do with what priorities should be made or what the criteria should be for the priorities for the improvements. Any questions on that? Okay. Senior transportation guide is not out yet. You probably know that, but it is at the printer. They're waiting for the final proof, and their Guardian Society, I just checked in with them today. They're not sure when they're going to get the final proof, but it is at the printer and they are waiting for the final proof. So that's the update on that. The next thing, are there any questions on the senior transportation guide?
Do you have any idea how are they going to distribute it? How many are they going to publish? And I assume it'll be online as well, right?
Yes. I think it is online. It's been online since last year on the Guardian Society's website, which is probably the easiest way. I think it is also on CDTC. I don't remember how many. It was in the low thousands, I think, was the number that they were planning to print, just because they weren't sure how many were going to be needed. But I think they said that they talked about it a little bit at the Tools of the Trade. I'm pretty sure they said that they anticipate having budget to print more if they run out. So I wouldn't be concerned at this point about, you know, asking for too many or them not having enough copies.
I'll be there in a couple minutes.
Okay, thank you.
I know that when you need the housing directory, that they do mail it out to you at no cost to
They'll
you.
be there in a couple of minutes.
So even
You
though
can
it's a big book, they'll still mail a package out to you, how many you need type thing.
Yeah, and they've said that they were planning on treating it the same as the housing one. So it's my understanding that they'll be able to do the mailing, that I won't have to do that. That they'll be able to mail it out to anybody, however many copies that you want. Okay. Next on the agenda was list of to-dos from the coordinated plan. So this is, you should now be looking at something that says 6.1, increasing the accessibility of pedestrian networks. These are the issues and opportunities that are listed in the coordinated plan, which was from, this is the 2019 one. And I just wanted to run through these and see if anything sticks out to you in terms of something that I could be doing or that this group should be focusing on a little bit more than what we already are. Some of them are a little bit hard to wrap your head around in terms of like what we could actually do to improve them. So 6.1 is increasing the accessibility of pedestrian networks. Just talks that, you know, people want to be able to walk a little bit more than what they are able to because of inaccessible sidewalks, basically. And then improvements to CDTA. The next one on here is transition plans, which is also about sidewalks. I think, you know, we're CDTC right now. I feel like we have this pretty well covered in terms of making it a priority. But if you have a, you know, thoughts on what we should be doing differently, very open to those. Barriers to use of fixed route transit. This has been something that has been in our plan for the last few plans. We've talked about people being unfamiliar with the system, not wanting to be on a bus with people who aren't like them, and perceived safety issues of, you know, I don't know, people stealing stuff from them or violence on the bus or waiting for the bus. And then there's a little bit of discussion here about some people, when we did the public outreach for the last plan, in certain locations, Albany and Schenectady notably, saying that they're really familiar with CDTA and they currently ride it. So that issue that we have heard maybe isn't as big of an issue in the locations where the transit, you know, has been decent for a long time in the cities, just because they grew up with it. Regional development patterns. This is talking about the trend of people basically to live further and further away from each other and from services. And as you know, it's harder to provide transportation when there's a greater distance among things. We have talked in the past about trying to work with state agencies that are responsible for citing things like senior housing or low-income housing or health related, you know, entities that are responsible for permits that have to do with the location of health facilities that people who don't have a car need to go to frequently. But that's I've found it a tough nut to crack in terms of even how to approach it. Disposal transfer of 5310 funded vehicles. This was a new topic that we had talked about the last time, and we learned that NISDOT has that spreadsheet where they keep track of people who want vehicles or who have vehicles. You know, there was recently Schenectady ARC that decided to close their transportation system, and so there was a bunch of vehicles available from that. Todd's nodding. I think maybe, did you get a few of those?
Yeah, we purchased 2 of them from them.
Yeah.
So it was very helpful. And the paperwork wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. It was basically a letter stating the reason why we wanted to purchase the 2 vehicles, because we were aging out and losing so many of them. Mm-hmm. But it was an easier process than I thought it'd be. And definitely worth it.
Okay. Emergency preparedness. We haven't talked about this very much. I think Margot may have been involved in an application that is discussed further down here that was with the old New Freedom money that doesn't exist anymore. But I think besides for that application, which wasn't funded, there has not been much work done specific to, at least that CDTC has been involved in, specific to disadvantaged populations and seniors, specifically seniors and people who have disabilities, and, you know, flooding or other serious environmental issues that might lead to needing to evacuate locations.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know exactly with the emergency coordination, but I know Albany County has a list of in-need seniors in case of an evacuation, and they have list questions like if they're in a wheelchair, family members, those type of things. So that's set up through the Albany County Sheriff's Department, and they could put any persons that have a need, whether they're disabled or seniors, on that. So I don't know if that needs to be included in this or not.
Thanks. I'm not sure if we were aware of that. Do other counties do the same thing?
I'm not sure, but I could send you the Albany County Emergency Management phone number, and you can give them a call. They probably would know that.
Judy, were you trying to say something?
I was. Am I muted?
You're just really, really faint.
Oh, sorry. Saratoga County also does the same thing, a special needs registry through Office of Emergency Management.
Okay. This was another new topic, loneliness and isolation, that we added just because of the frequency with which we heard it in the public outreach stuff that we did for the last coordinated plan. It's kind of why we asked the doctor to come to talk to us at the Tools of the Trade. We talked about other examples of mobility management efforts in New York State. They are mostly rural. You know, Tompkins is on here. And then the Senior Transportation Guide, which was expected to be available in summer 2019. So if anything comes to mind after you've looked at this, please feel free to let me know. That list of stuff is like the needs, gaps, and barriers, plus that previous list is basically the things that are the eligibilities for the 5310. So applications that are addressing these or the previous list. And, you know, don't worry, the replacement and additional wheelchair accessible vehicles is definitely on the list. But there are a bunch of other things as well. One thing I think actually is listed somewhere, discussed somewhere anyways, is wheelchair charging, e-scooter, e-bike charging stations in a kind of like a publicly accessible way, so that as people are out, in the community, if their batteries are getting low, that they have an ability to charge. We did receive an inquiry from somebody from an advocate in Saratoga Springs a couple of weeks ago, asking if, if we're doing anything on this. And my reply was no, from a on the ground kind of a standpoint. To my knowledge, we're not. But that, she, if she found an entity that was interested in that, that I thought that it would be an eligible 5310 application. So I'm going to stop sharing that. The next thing on the agenda is the 5310 update, and I don't have an update for it, except to tell you what they've been telling me for months, which is soon, and I do not have a definition for soon. I would, in the past, around this time of year has been the time when it has come out, because of the annual cycle with the FTA and the, depending on what years of funds different regions in the state have leftovers from, that we don't want to lose. But I really have not heard any updates on it. Have any of you heard any updates?
Now, Carrie, you will send that out. I mean, we're an organization that has no 5310 right at the moment, so we wouldn't automatically get. You will send that to us, right?
Right. My understanding is NISDOT sends it out to anybody who has received and maybe applied for 5310 in the past. But as soon as we see it in our office, they do tell the MPOs, at least traditionally they do tell us. So as soon as I see it, I will send it out to the distribution list that I have for this group.
Thank you.
A state solicitation did come out recently. It's called the TAP and CMAC. It stands for Transportation Alternatives Program and Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality Program. Those are also federal transportation funds that can be spent on, well, the Transportation Alternatives Program is usually bicycle and pedestrian related projects, and the congestion mitigation air quality can be those, and it can also be roadway projects that are expected to reduce congestion, because the idea is that it reduces idling and improves air quality. I bring that up, because they did just release a solicitation, so maybe it could be an indication of other funds might get released, but also because the marketing materials, like the press release for that, was stressing Americans with Disabilities Act accessibility type of improvements, which I don't remember it doing in the past. And I checked the state DOT program materials for it, because they administer both of those programs, and their materials look the same as they have in the past. So the eligibilities look the same. Now, Americans with Disabilities Act sidewalks improvements for accessibility have always been an eligible expense as part of that, but it's interesting that the marketing materials are specifically talking about that. So I haven't seen the evaluation criteria yet. It may be on the website, but it's possible that there will be at least an expectation that there would be an attempt to fund projects that are focusing on accessibility related improvements. So if you're a municipality, or if you work with a municipality and there's sidewalk type or pedestrian type of improvement that you or people that you work with would be interested in, now's a good time to let them know about that, and also let them know about the TAP and CMAC solicitation opening if in case they're not already aware. All right, so we're up to news around the table. I'm going to go around my screen because I think that's the most efficient thing to do. Todd, do you have anything?
Nothing new to report. We're still trying to hire for drivers and staff. That's just an ongoing thing. And yeah, that's about it here. It's pretty quiet.
Bob?
Pretty much the news is what I mentioned earlier, recruitment of volunteers, because we have significant rejections in terms of rides that are requested because we don't have enough volunteers.
Okay. Peggy?
We're doing okay. We're open and running. Number of people requesting their services are down right now. But what I wanted to ask people is how have their limitations changed since things have opened up? Are people still requiring masks? Are people limiting the number of people on vehicles? Because we're still, there's no, like, I haven't found any set information on what is the proper thing to do. Like, are we supposed to be still 6 feet distancing on vans? Things like that. So if anybody has any information, I'd greatly appreciate that.
Well, nothing's changed for our agency. We're still doing the 50% max in the vehicles, and everyone's still required to wear masks. Our oversight, OPWDD, has lifted some of the requirements, but it's a little sketchy where if people are vaccinated, we can fill up the bus more. If they're not vaccinated, there has to be the 50%. It's something we're working through right now, but that's kind of what we're doing at the moment. We haven't heard anything direct either way.
Well, nice to see you. I'm just wondering,
She's on the Zoom. No,
the 50%, is that like, so if it's 12 passenger van, you can put 6 on type
Correct.
thing?
Yeah,
Like basically one person per seat.
basically, yeah. And then we zigzag folks so they're not sitting right directly behind each other. They're off to the sides of each other as best we can.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone not working under OPWDD want to chime in on that? Sorry, Peggy. Angelina?
We're meeting with folks in person. We've been since the middle of March.
Okay. Donna?
Sorry about that. We've been very busy, as we have been since the warmer weather hit, doing evaluations and training, and very fortunate that we do have our 2 5310 vehicles, because the vehicle we had gotten the second one to replace finally died after, I think it was 14 years. We finally had to put our one vehicle to rest. So we are 3 of us trying to do evaluations on 2 vehicles, and it's keeping us very busy. So.
Thanks. Judy?
Oh, we're busy. We're back to normal. We have been for a long time. That's all I got.
Okay.
I'm tired.
Margot is here, but is unable to talk. So she did send me a chat, I think, regarding specifically what Peggy was asking. That she says they're at, so this is Schenectady, Catholic Charities, Schenectady Senior and Caregiver Support Services. They're at 50%. All clients still need masks on the bus, and they purchased electrostatic cleaning guns for each vehicle.
Thank you for that. We also have one of those guns for cleaning the vehicles. We purchased one of those.
Okay. Deb?
As this is my first time, I'm not quite sure where I should start, but we've been back doing medical rides now for a few months. I do require our people that are not vaccinated to wear a mask. And some of my drivers are requesting that they still wear it, whether they are vaccinated or not. And it's all volunteer. So I have to kind of base it on what the ability of and comfort of our drivers are. And I also lost a bus. So we're in the process now trying to obtain a second one through the program that's going on. I'm not quite sure what status that's at. And I was going to check with the guy after this meeting. But we're pretty well up and running. I have not had bus trips other than medical rides. We also have the gun where we can, spray everything down, make sure everything's good. We've done the same thing with both of the cars that we have. And people are starting to come around. So it's kind of looking up.
Great. And since you're new, could you just tell everyone what your agency is?
Yes, I'm from the town of New Scotland, out in Slingerlands, New York. It encompasses Clarksville, Faribault, Voorheesville, laying around those areas there a little bit of, before you go into Bethlehem and Delmar. And I got to tell you, through this whole pandemic, we were able to, with the help of other people, get 620 shots into the arms of the seniors. And that was through the Sheriff's Department, Deborah Tanner from the Department of Aging. And I also worked with Rite Aid Pharmacy, and they were phenomenal. So if you guys ever need somebody to get in touch with that would do a home visit for a shot, please let me know.
Thanks. Carol?
Hello, Rensselaer County Office for the Aging. We just, the last couple of months, started up our medical transportation program. It's very limited, unfortunately. We lost a lot of drivers. During COVID, they went on unemployment or they resigned because of that, and we have not been able to build back up our workforce. We are still running about 5 days a week, but it's not both vans. Some days it's only one van. But we are definitely trying our best to make sure that those that need those necessary medical appointments are getting to the doctors. We do require the same PPE and safety measures as everyone else. But thank you for allowing us to join the call today and kind of just see where we all are in the land of this. But thank you for all that you do as well, Karen. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks. Foreman M, I think, is Mary.
Karen, I don't know if you saw, but whoever that person is doesn't have a microphone or camera. It was in the chat.
Okay. Well, whoever you are, Foreman M, feel free to send me a chat or send us all a chat if you have any updates that you want to share. Mark?
Hey, just want to say, don't forget to use capitalregionindicators.org to help you answer any of your demographic questions that you may have when applying for grant applications. If you have any other complicated data questions, we can generally help you out here at CDRPC. So feel free to reach out. Thanks.
Mark, could you maybe put that in the chat box, the website?
Sure.
Thanks. Jen? Okay, I'm gonna assume that Jen just can't talk. And I think other than that, we got to the end of our list. Did I miss anyone? Okay. And last thing on the agenda was next meeting. If we follow our normal schedule, it would be on October 11th at 2 p.m. Just gonna check, is that actually a Monday? Yes, so that's Monday, October 11th at 2 p.m. Does that seem problematic for any reason?
Columbus Day.
Is that Columbus Day? Angelina, was that like a question or a
Yeah.
statement? Okay.
No, yeah, it is.
So should we move it to the 4th? October 4th?
Either
Or we
way.
could do October 12th as well. Would you rather keep it to a Monday?
I think for me, October 4th is fine.
Okay. Margot says the same thing. So let's do October 4th, Monday at 2 p.m.
In person or Zoom?
Thanks for asking, Peggy. Yes. What do you all want to do?
I'm good either way. But
I'm good either way.
Yeah, I'm flexible.
I'm good.
I'm good either way. Prefer in person, but either way.
So I know in our office we are working on a system in our conference room, but I'm not confident that it's going to work well. So like doing I'm not confident that doing a hybrid approach is going to work with the technology that we'll have by October 4th. It's possible it would, but I've said that before about technology in our conference room and been wrong. So I think it would be prudent to pick one or the other.
So why don't we keep it Zoom for right now?
All right, why don't we'll plan on online, and then depending on how things look, I can check in a few weeks before the meeting and see if we want to switch.
okay.
And how our technology is looking.
Well, if we were to do in person, would there be donuts?
Are you bringing them?
Maybe. I mean, you know,
Sure.
I could be convinced.
If you bring donuts, then we can have donuts. I think that's Mark's vote for an in-person meeting. All right, but we're gonna let's plan on virtual, and then we can always switch. I'll make a note to check in a few weeks before the meeting. All right.
Sounds good.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey, Carrie. So that,
Yes.
the foreman M, hold on, I'm sorry. Sebastian, that foreman M is a planner for the senior long-term care services. She worked with Margot, she says.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Margot, they must just have an issue with their system.
All right. Take care.
Bye,
I'll see you
Margot.
tomorrow.
Bye, Jen. Bye, Kathy.
Bye.